Parach Matei Aharon. Now we're ready. V'hinei Parach Matei Aharon Tafshin Lamed Gimel. We're holding chapter 8, and what we've been learning this Maimer in preparation for Gimel Tammuz. The Maimer is really about Berchas Koyanim and blessings, but since Gimel Tammuz is next Shabbos is Parshas Parach, so we're learning a Maimer of V'hinei Parach Matei Aharon, which is from Shabbos Parshas Parach or Chodesh Tammuz Tafshin Lamed Gimel, and as I mentioned, we're in chapter 8. So what did we say till now? The Maimer opens with a quote from the story of what happens after the rebellion of Parach. Parach rebels against Moshe, and he basically wants to stake a claim to the leadership, to the kahuna, to the priesthood, and eventually Parach has his downfall, and the earth swallows him up, and his whole gang and mob, and then God says, to put an end to all of this trouble, we're going to settle the score once and for all, and we're going to determine who's the rightful kohen, who's the one who I've chosen to be the priest. So the way that we're going to do it is everybody tells Moshe to collect the staff of every single prince, all the leaders of all the tribes. So each tribe had its leader. Each one has his staff. Everybody has their walking staff, right? And collect the staff of each one of them, including Aaron's. Put them all in front of the oil moed, in the tabernacle, in the Mishkan. And then the one whose staff is going to blossom, that's the one that's the one I've chosen to be my kohen, my priest. And so they collect all the staffs, they put them down, and the next morning they come back, and Aaron's staff is the one that buds and blossoms and produces almonds, shkedim, almonds. So we explained what's the significance of almonds, what's the symbolism in that the way God chooses to show that He chooses Aaron HaKoyin is specifically through shkedim, through almonds. So it's explained that almonds ripen very quickly, and just as almonds ripen quickly, the same is true with regard to the priestly blessing. The priestly blessing is a blessing that comes quickly. What does it mean that the priestly blessing comes quickly? So we started to explain something else, and we asked a question. It's a fairly popular question, which is if everything is determined before. At the beginning of the year, everything is determined for this coming year. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's determined exactly how much money you're going to earn, and you're going to be healthy, and all these things are determined already. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So why do you have to pray every day? And specifically in our prayers, 3 times a day, we ask the 12 brachas in the middle of the Amidah are all about our needs. So if God has already determined what we're going to have, so why do we have to pray every day for our needs and 3 times a day? So we said like this. That true, everything is determined already on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Yet the thing is that it's possible that what is determined will remain somewhere stuck in the upper pipeline, will never come down to us below in this world. Why is that? So we explained, because when God determines what you'll have in the coming year, so that determination is made, and it's like a deposit that's made in Malchus of Atzilus. That's where whatever blessing you're going to have, you're going to make $1 million this year, it gets deposited in Malchus of Atzilus. But of course, you'd like to have $1 million here, not in Atzilus. So that's why we pray that it should come from Atzilus all the way down here. But for it to get from Atzilus there, it has to go through a whole process. And so that's what the meaning of the prayers is, that which was already determined for us shouldn't remain spiritual, and should remain in the spiritual realms, whatever that means, but it should come down into our world, into our reality. And for that we have to pray. So what does that mean? Why is it that if God already determined, especially we asked, the determination that's made on the high holidays is made for this world? Who's in shul? A neshama and a body is in a shul. And what are we asking for? We're asking for things in this world. And the determination is for us down here in this world, as we're asking for things that we need here. So why is there then that disconnect? Why does it get stuck if the determination is made for down here? So we gave an example. We said that whenever a person wants to do something, determines that he should do something, it has to go through a full process. That from the idea all the way to action is a process. So it starts in your intellect. From your intellect it goes into the garments. And the garments meaning it's a thought, and you think about it. From thinking about it, you speak about it. You speak about it until you actually do it. So how does that work? If you decide, it's not just that the analogy we're giving is exercise, right? So if you decide. If you want to say that exercise, I want to think about whether exercise is good or bad. So it has nothing to do with me. I can think about whether exercise is good or bad. I can decide it's good, but that has nothing to do with me. So obviously there will be a delay or a disconnect from the idea to me actually exercising. But here the analogy is closer to something else, which is you decide that you should exercise. And you come to the decision that tomorrow morning I'm going to get up and I'm going to exercise. And yet what happens in the next morning? The next morning you have to reevaluate, you reconsider. You think about it again. Am I going to exercise? Not going to get out of bed, not get out of bed. It's raining, what's the weather? You already made a determination that you're going to do it. And it wasn't just that you're talking about the thing in the abstract, you're thinking about it as it relates to action. And yet all of it remained in the world, in the realm of ideas, of thought, or intellect. The idea of actually exercising, but not the actual doing it. So that's a process you have to go through. You're always reevaluating, and that's because for it to get from stage one in the intellect all the way to the last stage to action, it goes through this process. And every stage, there's another reevaluation. So the same is true with regard to the blessing that we have. God decides on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur that we should have $1 million in our bank accounts in this world. But that's how it is in Malchus of Atzilus. For it to come down into this world, so now it needs to be reevaluated, reconsidered in every step of the way. And so when it goes from Atzilus to Bria, there's another din v'cheshbon, there's another accounting, another determination is made whether it should come. So in other words, just because you have something, in big corporations or government, certainly you have money that's allocated for certain things. Money's allocated. We're determining we're going to give X amount of dollars to this specific project. And then what happens? You have to go through a bureaucracy and hoops and paperwork and things till you get the money, and sometimes it doesn't even end up coming through. It's already allocated. It doesn't matter until you can finally actually cash the check. So it's the same idea that the determination is taka made, but until it gets down here, it goes through. It could have a lot of delays. Bribery helps. If you stop it every day, it's a little schmearing. It says, right? It's the same thing. It's the shayla. The mitzvahs that we do, in a sense, could be a form of bribery. It's a question. It's asked, is that a form of bribery? So anyway, okay. So now we can understand that the general way a blessing comes down from heaven is with all kinds of delays. So what's unique about the priestly blessing? What's unique about the priestly blessing is that the priestly blessing comes quickly. That's the connection to almonds, right? That it happens quickly. But now that we explained why everything is delayed, we have to understand how is it that the priestly blessing could bypass it and come quickly if it has to go through every different stage. So going back to the metaphor we gave, the Rebbe says like this: when is it that you have to constantly reconsider, reevaluate? When the idea originates as an idea. But if it originates in your will, if you have a desire for it, you want it, you have a pleasure in it, so then it comes quickly. Then it's expedited. And we know that from our own self. There's something that we know we should do. So the reason we're decided to do it is because it's the right thing to do, but not because we have any pleasure from it or desire for it. So then we're always going to reevaluate till we actually go through with it. But something that you want, you're not going to stop until you get it. You're not going to stop. So the whole process is expedited and streamlined. It goes very quickly. So that's the idea of the priestly blessing. The priestly blessing comes from ratzon, which is higher than ishtalshlus. When the terminology of the Maimer, when something comes in ishtalshlus means that it has its certain limitations, and there everything has to be reconsidered, and there everything could possibly be delayed, and so you need to constantly bring it down lower, step by step. But when it begins higher than Hishtalshlus, higher than law and order, higher than any of that structure, meaning in the level of Ratzon, or as it is with us, in pleasure, higher than Hishtalshlus, so then it comes quickly. And that's the power of the priestly blessing, that the priestly blessing comes quickly because it draws from beyond Hishtalshlus, from even beyond divine intellect. So beyond even from Atzilus. Atzilus is already as infinite, beautiful as Atzilus is, and its oneness with God. It's still a world. It still has parameters. It still has a context. It still has its borders, its definition. But when we were drawing from higher than it, where there's no borders, so then it can come quickly. So we understand now, and this is what we're up to now in chapter 8, we understand the idea of the priestly blessing producing a fast flow from above to below. That it comes quickly without hesitating because it comes from higher than Shalshus, it comes from Ratzon. We said, by the way, parenthetically mentioned that it's similar to the idea of prayer. So we talked a little bit about this in the last class, the difference between blessing and prayer. that blessing is something that's already allocated to you. What's the power of the blessing? The blessing is that it should come from above. It shouldn't remain above. It should come down here. So that's why, like we talked about in Yaakov blessing his children, he gave them each the blessing that they really had coming to them. Why did he bless them? In order to bring it into fruition, that it should actually come down and be here. But it's already something that's there. Tefillah, prayer, on the other hand, could create something new. Prayer has the capacity, you're creating a new ratzon, a new will. And also the idea of ratzon, that it's something that comes from above, something new, and therefore something beyond any limitations, and therefore it comes quickly. So now we see that the priestly blessing comes quickly. In chapter 8, the Rebbe is going to explain the ramifications of this. The fact that we're saying that the priestly blessing means that the blessing comes fast, that tells us something about the nature of the blessing that we're actually receiving with the priestly blessing. So let's see, chapter 8. So to add another advantage to the blessing of the Kohanim, the first thing we said is that the first advantage is that it comes quickly. But once we're saying that it comes quickly, so now we can add that that means that there's something deeper, there's something even another advantage, which is that is that the blessing from the Kohanim draws blessing down here to us from exceedingly high, from especially high up. And we say in the brackets, we said that the source of this flow comes from higher beyond the shtalshalos, ad lamata mata b'yeser, until the lowest place. As we had said earlier, that the blessing of the Birchas Kohanim comes to even those that aren't deserving. What does this mean? Why is it that the fact that we're saying that the priestly blessing is fast means that it comes from a higher place, it comes to the lower place? Because what does it mean when we say something's fast? What does it mean that we're saying it's fast? It means that there's no consideration. What's the reason for a delay, for the hold-up in the blessing that we have? The hold-up is that everything has to be reevaluated. So what does it mean when I reevaluate something? The blessing is stuck in Malchus of Atzilus, and now, in Malchus of Atzilus, we have to consider, should it continue to Bria, to the world of Bria? So you have to think about Bria. So already, as the blessing is in Malchus of Atzilus, Bria is already starting to mean something. I need to evaluate, should it continue to Bria or not? Once I'm considering whether it should continue to Bria, what happens? So now already the source of it is something that has a connection to Bria. Malchus Datzilus, even as high as it is and beyond it, removed as it is from Bria, still there's a connection. One leads to the other, which is why there could be an evaluation, a consideration made from one to the other. In other words, when one person, let's say, considers another person, already it means that there's a connection between them. The consideration just solidifies that connection. But the idea is that there's already a connection. If there's no connection between them, then there's no consideration. So the fact that there's a consideration means that already it's not coming from the highest level. The highest level of godliness, there's no consideration. There's nothing. Everything, there's nothing else. There's nothing. So when it's already considering something lower, it means that it's already not coming from the highest place. Make sense? It's not coming from the highest place because it's coming from a place that the lower level matters, is significant to. Number two, once you're making a determination, an evaluation, so if once I'm considering, it means that it's possible that I'll determine that it shouldn't happen. It's possible, God forbid, that in Malchus that's saying, it's not going to Bria, or from Bria it's not going to Yitzir, meaning that it's possible that the blessing won't reach the lowest levels. If we're reevaluating, reconsidering whether it's worthy or not, so that means that it's possible that it won't reach the lowest levels. So we see that when the priestly blessing is fast, meaning there's no din v'chashbon, there's no consideration, so that implies already that the blessing is coming from a place that's beyond higher and lower, where the lower doesn't take up any space, is not significant, and therefore there's no evaluation. And two, it can come to the lowest place, because if there's no evaluation, it can go to anywhere. It's not that the lower place is worthy of receiving it, it comes automatically, in a sense, right? So and since this comes, there's another component of it. Since this blessing from Birchas Kohanim comes quickly and it doesn't delay, it's not held up. So therefore, when this blessing comes down here, it comes in greater abundance. What does that mean? What does it mean that it comes in greater abundance? Because again, it's the same concept. What does it mean that I'm evaluating whether to give to you? It means, number one, that there's a connection between us. So it's already not from a level where neither of us matter, right? Or that's beyond either of us. So it's already limited. But number two, and number two, like we said before, it'll go anywhere, because if I'm not evaluating you, so then it can come to the lowest level. It doesn't matter. But another aspect of this is that when I'm evaluating what to give you, I have to consider your capacity. I'm considering your capacity. Since I'm considering it, it means that I have to give you something limited. Something that's limited to what you could handle. Right? If I give you without consideration, I'll give you whatever. But if I'm considering, so then my giving to you is going to be something that's limited to whatever it is that your capacity can take. But what happens when there's no din v'cheshbon, when there's no evaluation, there's no assessment that's made, it's just a blessing that's coming down from heaven quickly. So then what you get abundance. You get even beyond what you could handle, in a sense.
It may not be a good thing.
Right. Well, here we're talking about in a positive way. We'll get into negative things soon. But yeah, and we mean in a positive way that you're getting blessing. Ad bli dai, right? That yivlus v'zechamir, you're getting an overflow of blessing. So one second. So again, the point is like this. We said that the priestly blessing comes quickly. So now that we understand what it means, that our sustenance and our blessings and what's already earmarked for us could be delayed, and therefore we have to pray. And therefore we contrast that with the priestly blessing. The priestly blessing comes quickly. So once we say the priestly blessing comes quickly, what is the implication? Is that the priestly blessing comes from a higher place and could reach even a lower place, and that it comes b'riboy. That's part and parcel with the idea that it is quickly. Because if it's quick, there's no evaluation, so then we have these components we just explained. Based on this, the Rebbe says we can understand something. The Maimer, that this Maimer is based on the Maimer L'Kutei Torah. The few Maimerim, primarily it's based on the Maimer L'Kutei Torah. The Rebbe talks about this idea. And what's the, if you had to summarize the point of the Maimer, even our Maimer up to this point, what's the message of the Maimer? It's an explanation on what it means that the priestly blessing comes quickly. So what is it? What's the Maimer about? It's about the uniqueness of the priestly blessing and how it's different than everything else, in that it comes quickly. The method in which the priestly blessing comes to fruition. That's the Maimer. But in the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, after explaining what we've been talking about, discussing this issue, the Alter Rebbe sort of pivots and he mentions something else. And he says like this. The Alter Rebbe then goes on to talk about the meaning of the priestly blessing, which we just had 2 weeks ago, right? Yevarechecha. So Rashi quotes part of it, but so the Medrash says Yevarechas b'mameinu b'banim, right? There's money and and then it's with money and with children, and then v'yishmerecha min hamazikin, that it should be protected from those that from bandits or from those that are harmful. So the Alter Rebbe talks about that. So that already is what the priestly blessing is about. So in other words, there's the method in which the priestly blessing comes, and then there's what the blessing is about. They seem to be two different topics, right? So the Rebbe says like this. Based on this, we can understand the flow of ideas in L'Kutei Torah, where the Alter Rebbe talks about this, that after the Alter Rebbe explains that the blessing of the Kohen comes quickly, so maybe Drashas Razal ala Pasuk, he brings what the Chazal say on the verse. Yivarech Hashem Yishmerecha, that's obviously the opening, the first of the priestly blessings. May God bless you and protect you. That Yivarecha b'mama in chulu. Now that brings what the Medrash says. The Yivarecha b'mama, you should be blessed with sustenance, and Yivarecha b'banim chulu, and with children. V'yishmerecha min hamazikin, and you should be protected, safeguarded from bandits and from evil forces. It's not understood. This Maimer Chazal talks about what is coming from the priestly blessing, what the blessing is, which is bracha b'mamein u'b'banim u'shmira min hamazikin. Right? It's a blessing that you're blessed with sustenance, with children, and protection. But L'Kutei Torah maybe drasha zul inin shamshachi b'mehirus. But in the Maimer L'Kutei Torah, Alter Rebbe is talking about the fact that the blessing comes quickly. So, and he brings this in a sense in support of that. But they seem to be two different things. What's the connection? So the Rebbe explains. So we can explain like this. When he say to bless you with money and with children, with sustenance and with children, that reflects on an abundance of blessing. That the blessing comes. What does it mean that it's an abundance of blessing? How does blessing with sustenance and children reflect or indicate an abundance? remember we talked about in chapter 2, I think it was, right, that sometimes God decides what you're going to get, and it's only in one of your primary categories of needs, right? So we need sustenance, right? We need parnasa, we want to be blessed with children, and we want to be blessed with good health, right? Sometimes a person is allocated only enough resources for one of those categories, and like we said, so that you go to a tzaddik give you a blessing, and the tzaddik could exchange it from one to the other, which, by the way, is again that point we talked about bracha. Blessing is not creating something new, it's about bringing the blessing. Tzaddik has the power to move your flow, if it's coming into chaya, to put it into mezaimer, to put it into banner, right? We quoted the story of the Baal Shem Tov, where somebody came to the Baal Shem Tov, the couple came to the Baal Shem Tov, they were very well off, they weren't blessed with children, so Baal Shem Tov said, I'll exchange it basically. If you agree to be poor, bless you with children. What's the deal about? Because he saw that those people were only able to have blessing, the blessing was limited. And so therefore the tzaddik could exchange it from one category, from sustenance, from parnasa to children. But the point is, you have limited resources to work with.
So wait, if you daven on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur and you get brachas, let's say not in this world, but they're up there, they come down in any...
They can come down in one... Well, so the idea is that we should be blessed in everything, and it should come down in all the categories, and that it should come here to this world. But the point is, sometimes a person's allocated, there are limited resources that are enough to come in one category.
So if you daven for parnasa, like on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, you could be blessed with children?
Right, well, it could be, yeah. That sustenance can come down in one way or another. Okay, so the point. But here we're saying the priestly blessing. We said there's an abundance. How do we see this concept of abundance? We said the fact that it comes quickly reflects the idea that it's abundant. It comes b'ribagoda because there's no din v'cheshbon, there's no evaluation and reconsideration, and so therefore it comes in abundance. And how do we see that from what the blessing is? Because since the blessing is in Bana and Chaya, and Bana and Mezayna, so therefore we see it's coming down in multiple categories. It's not just in limited resources, it's not just in one category, it's abundant. And also, it's not, what about the third category of Chaya, of health? So he says, because the Rebbe says, the Hashpa, Yibachol Inyan, B'Bana Chaya Mezayna. This idea that Yivrecha B'Mam and Yivrecha B'Banim, that you bless with sustenance of the children, that's two. That's sustenance, it's children. It's not health, it's not chayav. So, and the Rebbe says it shows an abundance in all three. How? So he explains. Because when we say that God blesses you with sustenance, so that includes health. Because the Gemara says this story about there's a famine and a plague. So people were dying of hunger and people were dying of disease. So the famine meant there's no rain, so the people didn't know what to do. So they came to Shmuel Bar Nachmani and they said, we need to pray. We can't pray for both. The Gemara says that you only pray for one. You can't pray, make a special blessing for two things. Take one. So we have to choose. So which one should we pray for? So they said, obviously we'll pray for the plague to stop. More people were dying from the plague than were dying from the from starvation. So Shmuel Bar Nachmani said no. Pray for the famine to stop. Why? Because God's going to give sustenance. Who's he going to give to? He's giving to dead people. He's giving to living people. So if he's going to give sustenance, then obviously automatically the plague will stop. Because like that, he has to give to... And he quotes a pasuk. We say every day in davening, He's masbiya l'chol chai. Who does the Eibusher give sustenance to? To chai. To somebody. So the fact that there's yivarecha b'mamin already implies that there's also yivarecha in chaya as well. Okay. And this idea of Yishmerecha min amazikin, so we have in the first part, the first interpretation of Yivarecha, you should be blessed with money and with children, represents an abundance in all three. Why? Because you're getting blessed for all three categories. Bana Chaim Zayna, that represents abundance. And then when it says V'yishmerecha, you're protected min amazikin from the harmful elements. So that shows that where does the blessing come? To the lowest of levels. So these two things that we talked about, the fact that it's biriboy and that it comes down l'mata mata b'yoser, the first thing we said in the opening of chapter 8, that it comes to the lowest place, and that it's in abundance, we see both of them here clearly. That it comes even to that to the lowest levels, even to a place where we need protection from ungodly elements. And what's the connection between these two things? What's the connection? Why is it that the blessing should come in abundance in all categories, and that it should come to the lowest place? That's because it comes b'mehirus. So we see that the two are connected. So the idea, once we explain that the Birchas Kohanim, the advantage of Birchas Kohanim is that it's quick, it's mehirus, it's fast, so automatically we see how does that express itself within the blessing itself, because the blessing is in abundance and to the lowest places. Okay, as we explain. Okay. We need a little bit more. We need a little bit more understanding here, because the Rebbe is going to say here, interestingly, that this idea is all taught to us in the episode of Aharon's staff growing almonds. But the thing is, we know that the priestly blessing was around before. In Parsha Shemini, he talks about after the inauguration of the tabernacle, it says that Aharon blessed the people, and like Rashi says, Birchas Kohanim, he gave them Birchas Kohanim. So Birchas Kohanim was around before. If it was around before, then all this was already happening. So what's new? What's the new element that's introduced with this idea of his staff producing almonds? Let's see. So he says like this. Test. Chapter 9. Even though Birchas Kohanim was around before Aaron's staff grew almonds. As it says that Aaron lifted his hands to the people and he blessed them. He blessed them with the priestly blessing. And certainly then, since it was Birchas Kohanim, it was also fast. Nevertheless, once Aaron's staff blossomed, now something else was added to it. A new dimension came. Since the whole idea that Aaron's staff blossoms and produces almonds came as a result of objection to his priesthood. So this is like the halacha. There's a law about a shtar shetzar of l'ir. Somebody writes a document. So let's say you write a loan document, and then somebody comes and says the document is not valid. It's a false document. It's a forged document, whatever. So you come to court, and court verifies it. They look at the witnesses or whatever, and they determine that the document is valid. So now they authorize this document. It's like sort of another, like a notary. It's notarized. It's an extra. So it becomes extra valid, extra strong. So a regular document that has witnesses on it is obviously valid and obviously carries weight. But a shtar shiyatzal of ira, one that was brought into question, that was then validated, is even stronger. It's even more powerful than a shtar, than a document that didn't have it. So therefore, the fact that there was a rebellion and there was an attempted undermining of the priesthood of Aaron, that it was challenged, the fact that there's a challenge and he was then validated, that means that his priesthood is solidified even more than before. Like the advantage of the light that comes from darkness. So based on this, we can understand another thing that the Rebbe concludes his Maimer with, which is he talks about the idea that that being fast, the idea of shkida, of going quickly, haste, speed, could be good, it could be bad. It could be good and bad. We know that we quoted at the beginning of the Maimer, right? The idea of shkid and being fast, makal shaki, that idea we quoted from Yirmiyah, right? The prophet Yirmiyah, Jeremiah, prophesied about what? The destruction of the temple. His prophecies are very, very sad prophecies about negative things. And how was he introduced to it? With a makal shakid, with also an almond growing staff. And that was because the negative, the destruction was coming quickly. It was on its way, it was coming rapidly. So we see that something bad could also come quickly. So there's something bad comes quickly and something good. So again, what's the connection? Why does Alter Rebbe bring this? We're talking about Birchas Kohanim, which is good. Why are you bringing in this idea of the negative, of being fast in the negative sense? So the Yeshleimar, maybe by my Mesheshkid Lemutav, Huleramis Shabashkedim Tev in the Matei Aharon Yesh Gam Maila says Hapcha the Mutav Letev. So it's to allude to the fact that this episode with Aaron represented another layer, another dimension in the blessing of Aaron that was now added, that after he was challenged. Now there's the Shkedim, and that shows us that there's the transformation of the negative speed to positive. So we also have the advantage of his hapcha. So before that, you had taka, it was fast, and it was therefore coming from higher than ishtalshus until the lowest levels, and it was all that was all true. And yet, what happens now when his staff starts blossoming almonds? What happens is now we also added the increased advantage of his hapcha, of transformation. What's the significance? This is like this. The fact that the Aaron's the validation of his priesthood came through the almonds, which is that represents haste to This is because even his hapcha is connected to the idea of haste, of being fast. Because we said that the idea of being fast implies also that it comes to the lowest level, and it comes to the lowest level in great abundance. In order for there to be an abundance even in the lower levels, so ultimately, even though we said in the beginning of chapter 8, we explained this whole connection, and we said that when there's no consideration, so then it can come to the lowest level and come in abundance, because you're not considering the lower level. So that's true, but nevertheless, the lower level still has to receive it. Still has to be able to receive it. So even though we're not considering it, therefore it can be in abundance even beyond, but still it has to be a keli for it. That the conclusion, the final blessing in the priestly blessing is that God should bestow peace upon you. So we could say that's why the priestly blessing ends with peace, because as we're saying, the priestly blessing comes from the highest levels beyond the shalshus, beyond limitation. It comes down to the lowest level in great abundance, without any restriction, without any limitation. So what's the vessel to be able to receive it is peace. Why? Because as we said, the Mishnah says, God found no more worthy vessel to receive blessing for the Jewish people than peace. Based on this, that the idea that you become a vessel for this abundant blessing, limitless blessing, is peace, we can understand the connection to the good, to the transformation that happens here. Why the Alter Rebbe brings the idea that there's the good shkedim, there's good speed, there's bad one, and this is about transformation. Why? Because the right, that in other words, we're talking about the coming from above and giving down here below. But the ultimate blessing, you should be able to receive all that abundant good, is that you're a vessel for it. How are you a vessel for it? The greatest vessel for blessing is peace. And what's the ultimate? So what's the connection between peace and this idea of hisapcha transformation? Because the ultimate idea of peace, as we're going to conclude in a moment, the ultimate idea of peace is when you transform an enemy. So you can make peace with somebody, and you can hate each other, and we make some kind of a peace agreement, and we don't invade each other, and that's it. But really, we hate each other. That's not real peace. True peace, the ultimate peace, is when the enemy becomes a friend. Right? That you transform an enemy into, like it talks about the Yutas Kislev, the whole idea about transforming the enemy into a friend. So that's the idea of transformation. So peace is the ultimate vessel for blessing. And what's the ultimate, because there are many levels. When you talk about peace, there are many levels of peace. You talk about an energy that comes from above, there are many levels in those energies, even beyond limitation. So if you want to get from the highest level and bring it to the lowest level, and that not only from above, but also the blessing should be able to be received properly below, so that's through peace. The transformation of the enemy, the ultimate type of peace, amitis hashalom, as he says, amitis in yashalom, the true peace, which is a transformation from the foe to become a friend. V'tachlas hashalom is the shalom zeh, shegam oev napach la'oyev, yeh bebias Mashiach tzidkenu b'gar mamish. The ultimate completion of this peace, where the enemy becomes transformed into a friend, will be when Mashiach comes sweetly, shaziyah shalom b'riboy u'bracha b'riboy, when we'll have abundant peace and abundant blessing, b'riboy built-in mugbal, abundance that's beyond limitation. Yerushalayim is open, without any limitation.